Hello, welcome to another book review. I'm your host, Kristen, and today I will be reviewing the YA fantasy book, House of Night, Awakened, by PC and Kristen Cast. In case you are interested in reading this book afterward, content warnings in this book are blood, violence, ableism, racism, exotification, slurs, sexism, transphobia, murder, sexual assault, abuse, sex shaming, and homophobia. For this review, I will start with the overall plot, then world building, and finally the characters. There will also be spoilers in this review. Let's begin! Now that her soul has been restored, Zoe has returned from the other world, with Stark as her guardian. While Stark heals from his battle with Kelowna, Zoe bonds with the vampires on the island, and discovers that she can use old magic. She is also gifted with a seer stone that allows her to see old magic when she looks through the hollowed center. However, Zoe is warned that old magic is very powerful and dangerous. She also realizes that she may not want to leave the Isle of Skye so soon. Meanwhile, back at Tusala, Stevie Ray struggles to adjust being back in school while balancing her love life. Rephium also worries about betraying Kelowna and how Dragon will try and seek revenge on Rephium. Furthermore, Nephryd is also plotting how to get Zoe to return to the House of Night. If the plot in the last book was dull, this one is even worse. For most of the book, Zoe stays on the Isle of Skye and gets to have an unearned vacation. Instead of going home to face her responsibilities and not let the world fall into darkness, she once again runs away from her issues. In Tusala, Stevie Ray once again has to deal with Rephium and more boy drama. This time, it involves Dragon, the swordmaster of the school, wanting to kill Rephium as revenge, after Rephium killed Dragon's mate/wife. According to the book, however, Dragon is an awful person for not immediately forgiving Rephium. This is despite the fact that Dragon's mate has only been dead for 3 weeks at most. There was a slight bit of world building in this book regarding old magic, which was okay. Basically, the elements Zoe has been controlling are composed of old magic, which turns out to be elemental sprites. That said, the sprites didn't really turn out to be important in the overall plot of the book. They just set up that Zoe can see old magic through the seer stone. For the entirety of this book, Zoe does next to nothing, even though it's brought up time and time again that Nephryd and Kelowna must be stopped. Instead, Zoe constantly makes out with Stark and dances with the elemental sprites. Even though she is constantly whining about her life, Zoe does absolutely nothing to fix the issue. Furthermore, she decides to assume the title of Queen at the end of the book. She even melts off to the High Council despite having no actual authority. Once again, Stevie Ray is caught up in boy drama. She and Rephium continue to go back and forth about Rephium being anxious about betraying Kelowna, despite having the same plot in the last 2 books. Besides controlling Earth to stop Dragon, however, Stevie Ray doesn't really do much. Oh look! Damien and Jack finally got to be a part of the series again, instead of just being background characters. What is their purpose now? Hopefully an interesting character arc? No. Instead, it's the awful bury your gaze trope that comes into play. Jack dies in one of the most contrived ways in the entire series at the beginning of the book. Instead of yelling for help or trying to escape, he just straight up accepts his ridiculous death. For the rest of the book, Damien is sad, and everyone is worried why he won't get over his dead boyfriend. This is even though the body has only been cold for about a day. During this book, Stark does about as much as Zoe, which is also almost nothing. The authors do try to have a nice moment where Stark takes up Archer again after Zoe's help after being scared of it. However, the scene doesn't work, as Stark has used his bow and arrow plenty of times before this book and after meeting Zoe. Rephium is also not an entertaining character. Despite having a relationship with Stevie Ray, he is still wishy-washy about whether to side with Kelowna or not. Rephium also doesn't understand why Dragon won't forgive him, and constantly thinks of himself as a monster. Rephium uses that as an excuse to try and not change his ways while he continues to complain, instead of showing how he's become a better person. Why do Nefret and Kelowna rarely do anything actually threatening or an action that makes sense, even though they're supposed to be antagonists? That said, while Kelowna is trying to break free of the oath that puts him under Nefret's control, Nefret actually does something antagonistic, and that she murders Jack. She also makes sure she's at a meeting, so when Jack dies, Nefret has a solid alibi. However, in order for Nefret to pull it off, everyone else must be as dumb as possible. Despite the entire High Council and the Council at the House of Night knowing that Nefret is evil and up to no good, they allow her to resume the position anyway. Not to mention that Nefret accepts her role back as a mere high priestess when she claimed she wanted to rule the world. As an antagonist, she should be constantly moving forward toward her goal, not getting further away from it. Overall, I give this book 1.5 stars. The only interesting detail were the sprites. The rest of the plot was completely boring, and the characters were insanely flat. I hope the next book is okay.